Welcome to BTW, Tefilah Workshop, and for today's workshop we're going to look at Halleil. Mentioned in the previous workshop that this Shabbos we're going to be mentioning Rosh Chodesh for Kislev, and so what we're going to do for Halleil, unlike what we did for Kiddush HaChodesh, we're going to have multiple sessions for different Halleils throughout the year, and there might even be more than one for Kislev and DataBeis, because even if you have a nice lineup of Hanukkah songs, for example, for the Halleil of Kislev, and even for the first day of Hanukkah, eventually you might start to run out of songs, and you might end up perhaps using one song twice, or maybe overusing a song, and if you're going to be davening multiple times throughout Hanukkah in the same place, for example, you might want to have a wider repertoire of songs. So we're going to have to do more than one session, perhaps, to get all the different Halleil variations that you might like in there. But what we will focus on now is first a generic Halleil, and then we'll talk about good places where you can add extra songs if you want to do that. Now, what I'll say for the Halleil session, similar to what I said to the Carlebach Kabbalah Shabbos session, and that is that it's not all or nothing. That meaning that you can make a Halleil nice and you could sing parts of it, and you don't have to sing all of it. And in some shuls, singing all of it will be very much a tircha tzibura. It'll be a burden to the congregation. They don't want that. And so you have to know how to spread out your singing within the davening. You have to be aware of your audience. So you could sing some parts without singing all of them. So what I'm going to do, hopefully right now, is give you some generic Halleil tips in terms of how to fit with the Nusach and what songs, or where you could sing songs. And I will, wherever I think you can sing a song, I will, but I'm not recommending that you necessarily sing each and every part unless you know with a certain level of certainty that the congregation that you're in wants that from you. Okay, so for Halleil, so you're obviously finishing off the Shemona Esrei so you're at Sim Shalom, right? So you finish off Baruch Atah Hashem HaMevarech Samo Yisrael B'Shalom. Okay, and then you go into the bracha for Halleil. Basic Nusach, most of us know it, but for the benefit of this workshop, we're going to do it. Generally, what you should try to do is whatever key you're going to finish the bracha on, there should be a key that you're going to be prepared to do the bracha for Halleil. So I'm going to do a different key actually. Baruch Atah Hashem HaMevarech Samo Yisrael B'Shalom. And then we go into Halleil. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvosav V'tzivanu likro es Halleil. Fine, so then you go into the Hallelujah. And maybe you're interested in singing Mekimi, but we're going to go with regular Nusach for now. And there are different ways of doing the Nusach, like in many times we find in this workshop. There are different ways you can do it. So you can do like one classical one, which I almost never do, is this. Mikimi mi'aparda me'ashvos yarim evyon lehoshivim nedivim im nidivei amo moshivi akeres habayis im habanim smecha hallelujah. The variation that I like, I think, is prettier. And instead of the na 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 na, it goes like this. Mikimi afarda me'ashbas yarim evyon lehoshivim nedivim im nidivei amo moshivi akeres havayis im habanim smecha hallelujah. And so that paragraph talks about acknowledging Hashem and blessing Hashem's name, how Hashem raises up the downtrodden, gives the keres habayis, someone who's infertile. Hashem has the power to make them a mother of children who is now happy. So that is what that paragraph is about. Okay, and then we have B'tzeis Yisrael, which is obviously talking about Klal Yisrael leaving Mitzrayim, and then there's some references to Kabbalas Torah in there, and this is known as the Halleil Mitzrayim in the Haggadah, and this one is classically sung. B'tzeis Yisrael miMitzrayim beis Yaakov me'am lo'ez hasayuda lekacho Yisrael mam shelosav. Right, so we know that. I don't think I need to go into the tune, but if you'd like me to, you could just reach out to me at thedatabeis@gmail.com. That's the data and base, BEIS, at gmail.com. That's also the place to go if you want to give an $18 Meiser sponsorship, or if you have any questions, if you want to be added to the DataBeis WhatsApp group, also just reach out to that Gmail. Okay, so there's that, and when it comes to ending off B'tzeis Yisrael, so B'tzeis Yisrael is something that I almost always sing, but if I'm not singing it, so there are ways to end off. One that I don't usually do, but it's a classic. Malecha hayom kisanus hayarden tisav liachar heharim, right, and then laid by milifnei adon chuli aretz milifnei Eloka Yaakov. So these are the different ways of ending. That's one way of ending off. The reason I don't like it is presumably the Tzibor has finished that paragraph already, and if you're doing that, you're getting them to recite more words, which is adding words, and it might be a hefsek of sorts in the Halleil, so I wouldn't do that unless you know that they didn't finish yet. But the other way to end, if you're not singing B'tzeis Yisrael, so it's a longer paragraph to end off, so you have to do what you did earlier, but it's a little bit more. So the way I would do it is Malecha hayom kisanus hayarden tisav lechor heharim tirgedu chielim givas kivnei tzon milifnei adon chuli aretz milifnei Eloka Yaakov ha'ufechi hatzur agamoyim chalamish lemayin omoyim. Now, one thing I think it's important to point out, and I'm going to use the Shem Hashem just because there's no other way to really teach this properly, but that word, right, Aleph, Lamed, and then the Vav and the Hey, so for the God of Yaakov, right, so a lot of people, they say it like, a Hawaiian greeting, like aloha, right, it's not aloha Yaakov. That word, that mapik hey at the end, is very similar to a ches at the end of the word, like Noach. So it's ah. So the word is not Eloha, it's Eloah. So the H is at the end, Eloah and not Eloha. So I've heard people make this mistake. It's a classic mistake, but that's the word. So again, it's milifnei adon chuli aretz milifnei Eloah Yaakov. That's how it goes. And it goes into Ha'ufchias Mayim. Okay, so then if it's a day where you're doing a whole Halleil, so if it's Rosh Chodesh, you won't be, but if it's Chodesh Kislev, if it's Chanukah, or if it's the beginning of Pesach, or it's Sukkot, or it's Shavuos, so you have a whole Halleil, so you do the paragraph of Lo Lanu, which is asking Hashem that He act for Himself, not even for us. Talk about wiping out the idols. This is what's in it for God, so to speak. And then we talk about our trust in Hashem in that final line. Yisrael b'tach v'Hashem Ezra u'maginamu. And then the next part is either Beis Aharon b'tchu v'Hashem Ezra u'maginamu. But what I like is Beis Aharon b'tchu v'Hashem Ezra u'maginamu. Yirei Hashem b'tchu v'Hashem Ezra u'maginamu. And then Hashem Zechranu Yivarech is often sung to the classical tune. Right? Yivarech es beis Yisrael. So we really start Hashem Zechranu Yivarech Yivarech es beis Yisrael. Now, I will often use a different tune for this. And if I am, most of the time, I will open up the paragraph the same way, because most songs will fit better if you start from Yevarech Es Beis Yisrael. So I will start. Umaginamu Hashem Zicharanu Yivarech. And then from Yivarech, I'll do a different tune. Like, let's say, Yivarech Es Beis Yisrael, Yivarech Es Beis Aaron, something like that. But I would start with Hashem Zicharanu Yivarech, open up the paragraph, and then go into the song. And then the ending off is the same way. Hashemayim Shemayim Lashem V'Haaretz Nosan Levnei Adam Lo Hamesim Yihaleluka V'Lo Kol Yardei Duma. Or what I prefer. Hashemayim Shemayim Lashem V'Haaretz Nosan Levnei Adam Lo Hamesim Yihaleluka V'Lo Kol Yardei Duma V'Anachnu Nevarechka Me'atav Yad Olam Hallelujah. So whenever I find myself in a minyan that's doing Halleil and they're singing no songs, and I feel really upset, so usually I have extra kavanah in the words Lo Hamesim Yihaleluka. The dead can't praise you. Yeah, it's just the idea that you should be alive when you're praising Hashem, vibrant, singing. Okay, then there's the paragraph of a hafti, and you have the same duality when you end that hafti, that it. You could either do na 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 na, or the way I like na 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 da 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 da. And so from now until the end, I'm going to go with that. So a hafti and moashiv. Now, what people don't realize all the time is how the Tehillim paragraphs are actually broken up. So, for example, Lo Lanu and Hashem Zacharanu is actually one kapitel of Tehillim. A hafti and moashiv is also one kapitel of Tehillim together. But when we do Chatzi Halal, obviously we break it up. And the hafti is talking about, also it's an aspect of faith in Hashem, love for Hashem. We have also, Uveshem Hashem Ekra, that line comes up both in a hafti and moashiv. So the first one is Tzara B'Yagon Emtza. Uveshem Hashem Ekra, I'm in pain, things are not going well, and I call out Hashem's name. And in moashiv, we have the opposite. We have Kos Yeshua So V'Shem Hashem Ekra, I'm raising a cup to Hashem in thanks, and I'm acknowledging Hashem. The idea that no matter what happens, we acknowledge Hashem. So the ending off for that. Esalech lefnei Hashem bi'artzos hachayim hemanti ki adaber ani simiot ani amarti b'chofsi kol adam kozev. Moashiv can be sung. It's classically sung to the tune of Moashiv. You could do other songs for it. I actually like Ana Hashem for Moashiv also. So you could do Moashiv Lashem Kol Tagmulo Hi Alai Kos Yeshuvos Eso V'Shem Hashem Ekro Nidarai Lashem Ashalem Negdono L'Chol Amo Yakor Dinei Hashem Hama V'Salach Hasidav Ana Hashem Ki Ani Avdecha Ben Amosecha Nidarai Dadadai Nidarai Dadadai Pitach Tolemosirai Lecha Es Machsevach Toda Uv'Shem Hashem Ekra Nidarai Lashem Ashalem Negdon L'Chol Amo B'Chatros Beis Hashem B'Sochichi Yerushalayim Nidadadadadadai Hallelujah. But I also like the song Ana Hashem for this. And there's a famous story with the Emrei Emes that they asked him, we want to, we need chosim, we need parnasa, we need whatever it is. So they go to the Emrei Emes, what should we do? He says, when you say Ana Hashem at Halleil, make sure you have it with a lot of kavanah. And they come back and they're like, we did it, we said Ana Hashem. And he said, yeah, well, which part of davening was it? We said Ana Hashem Hoshiana. He's like, no, you got the wrong Halleil. All right, famous story, the wrong line, Ana Hashem Ki Ani Avdecha. So that's meaning it's not just we're asking Hashem for help, but Ana Hashem, that I am your servant. Moreover, the Radak points out, and if you haven't noticed this before, you'll never unnotice it now, but the Radak says that look at the difference between Ana in Ana Hashem Ki Ani Avdecha and Ana Hashem Hoshiana. In Ana Hashem Hoshiana, that's Aleph Nun Aleph, which means please. Ana Aleph Nun Hey in Ana Hashem Ki Ani Avdecha. So the Radak points out that Ana with a Hey is a lashon of thanks. We're thanking Hashem that we get to be His servants. So that's a beautiful idea. So it's a good place to sing Ana Hashem. So Moshiv La Hashem Kol Tagmulo Yoloi Kos Yeshuvo Sesta Uveshem Hashem Ekra Nidar Hashem Hashalem Negdona Lechalamo Yakar B'nei Hashem Hamavasa Lachasidav Ayana Hashem ki ani avdecha venamasecha pitachta lemoseiroi. And then you could either end off there, or you can continue on. Let's say you're not singing Moshiv out loud, so then you could just end off. And so for Hallelujah, there's the classic Hallelujah es Hashem kol goyim shabechu kol haomim. But there are a lot of nice tunes you could do. One that I really like is Hallelujah. So it fits really nicely. Hallelujah es Hashem kol goyim shabechu kol haomim ki gavar aleinu chasto ve'emes Hashem li'olam hallelujah ayodu l'Hashem ki tov ki li'olam chasto yomar no Yisrael ki li'olam chasto ayomaru no ve'saron ki li'olam chasto ayomaru no yerei Hashem ki li'olam chasto. There are a lot of nice tunes. A tune that can work for any month is the Chabad again. Hallelujah es Hashem kol goyim shabechu kol haomim ki gavar aleinu chasto ve'emes Hashem li'olam hallelujah. Right, so then we go into Min HaMeitzar, asking Hashem, calling out from the depths. Hashem is with us. So for Pischuli, so there are two ways you can do Pischuli. You could either do the classic Pischuli Shari Tzadek Avova Modeka Zehashar La Hashem Tzadikim Yavovo, and then you can go into any song you want, or you can go into the natural Odecha Kiani Sani Vatahili Lishua, and then Even Masu Habonim Haisaler Oshpina. So you can do that, or you can. What I like to do is a classical Halleil ending. Pischuli Shari Tzedek Avova Modeka Zehashar LaHashem Tzadikim Yavovo. And then Odecha can be sung to any nice slow song, or even a fast song if you want. But you have that there. One point I will just make right now is on the pasuk of Me'es Hashem Ha'isazos. So it's not Hi Niflaos. If you look very closely, it's Hi Niflas. Hi Niflas B'Einenu, like you're flossing. Hi Niflas. So it's not Niflaos, but it's Niflas, because I believe, I'm not sure if Niflas is a noun. You have to look in the English if it's a noun or it's a verb. It might be a verb in this context. Okay, so then you have that. So for Ana Hashem, so you could either do just Nusach, Ana Hashem Oshiana, Ana Hashem Oshiana, and I like to go by Hatzlichana, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana. Or if you want to sing Ana Hashem to this, you could also do that. Ana Hashem Hoshiana. But also, again, make sure you realize that if you're doing a song, you're going to basically be a soloist because people are responding to this. So only if you're prepared to solo it, then do it. If not, don't sing it. Another song that I like to do here is Lev Tahar Barali Elokim. Ana Hashem Hoshiana. I've heard some people raise a concern that how can you sing during Ana Hashem? It's a plea. You don't sing during a plea. You're crying out to Hashem. So I think there's truth to that, but I would say that certain songs actually lend themselves to that emotion, to that crying, to that pleading. So I think both Lev Tahar and Ana Hashem fit that bill. So I have no problem singing Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, or Ana Hashem Hatzlichana. I think it fits nicely for both. And for Baruch Haba, most people don't sing it, and if you're in a minyan that doesn't plan on singing it, I wouldn't push for it. But if you can get it in, it fits really nicely. You can do Lashana Haba to Baruch Haba. Right, so Baruch Haba b'shem Hashem berachnuchem mibeis Hashem, Baruch Haba b'shem Hashem berachnuchem mibeis Hashem. Right, and then Kel Hashem hayor lanu Yisru Chag b'avosim hakarnes hamizbeach, and again until you get to the end. Now, if you're not going to sing it, and you want to do some singing before the end, you could also do Keliyata, which is the Lubavitch Rebbe tune, and I know many people do it to Modeh. So, Keliyata ve'odeka Elokai aromimeka, Keliyata ve'odeka Elokai aromimeka, Hodu Lashem ki tov, ki li'olam chasto, Hodu Lashem ki tov, ki li'olam chasto, and then you finish off with the Hallelujah. Ki lecha tavodos l'shimcha noel zamer, ki mi'olam yad olam atokel, Baruch atah Hashem, melech mehulal batishbachos. And some people have that minhag to say the pasuk from this week's Parsha, Chayisara, pasuk of Avraham Zakein ba ba'imim v'Hashem berachas Avraham bakol. And then you have the Kaddish, and the Kaddish will depend on whether or not you're saying Halleil on Yom Tov, or you're saying it on Shabbos, or just a regular Chol Rosh Chodesh. So if it's Shabbos or Yom Tov, I would go with Yiskadal v'Yiskadash Shemei Rabba v'Yamad v'Rach v'Sevim Hosen. Right? Yeah, I would do that Kaddish. If it is Chol, so I would go with a Nusach that Bezras Hashem, when we get to the Chol davening, I'll introduce this again. But I would do Yiskadal v'Yiskadash Shemei Rabba v'Yolim Odevroch Yisei v'Yamlich Machusei b'Chayeichon v'Chol Edcho Beis Yisrael b'Agalo v'Zmakarev Yimru Amen, and all the way till the end of the Kaddish. You'll hear that Kaddish in full again when we get to the Chol workshops. But in the meantime, that takes care of a generic Halleil where you want to put some singing into it. And Bezras Hashem, as we move forward, we'll get to some more customized Halleils. Maybe, each month, depending on what month it is, we might do another Halleil workshop just to get into the mood of the holiday. And so Bezras Hashem, later this week, we'll do one special for Kislev. And we'll meet you back also at DataBeis when you might be running out of your Hanukkah tunes. So that takes care of this workshop. I look forward to davening together with you in the future.